The conquest for Armageddon has begun again. This time the World Eaters have descended upon the planet. Angron has slung himself out of the warp and they are on their blood crusade. In this video, I'm going to cover the initial bits of lore, the timeline leading up to the World Eaters with their initial assault. I'm going to be talking about why the Space Wolves and the Black Templars have descended on the planet, and also go through the forces that are actually fighting on Armageddon. There's other Space Marine chapters there, there's other guard regiments there as well. Also, on top of that, I'm going to discuss some of the main characters, new characters that you haven't heard from before, that are taking a big stand and a big fight on this planet. So let's jump in and let's get waffling. So let's start with the two main forces of Space Marine chapters that are fighting on Armageddon, and that is the Space Wolves and the Black Templars. So let's start with the Space Wolf lore, and it states, "It was Stormcaller who heard the call. While in secluded contemplation, the High Rune Priest of the Space Wolves had received a vivid vision. A lupine spectre had stalked into his walking dreams, imparting in his mind a vision of a world on fire, its continents drowning in blood. As the spirits fixed him with a red-eyed gaze, it growled an urgent phrase that continued to echo through the recesses of Nijal's mind, hours after leaving his seclusion. Doom comes for Armageddon." The Space Wolves have been engaged in the annihilation calls of orcs in the outer reaches of Armageddon sector when the High Rune Priest received his revelation. The warriors of Logan Grimnar's great company, the Champions of Fenris, were spread across the front spanning 4 star systems. Neither were they alone. Elements of Blackmanes, Bloodmaws and Deathwolves were also present, attempting to contain the resurgent orcs and prevent southward incursions towards the vital Armageddon system. Logan Grimnar was left with a difficult choice to make. He could disregard Nigel Stormcaller's vision and trust that others would deal with whatever looming threat approached, or he could trust in his High Rune Priest's wisdom, potentially allowing the orcs to begin their offense anew. Such was the urgency and insistence with which Nigel delivered his counsel that Grimnar was swayed. The loss of Armageddon would spell disaster for an entire sector. He had learned over centuries to trust the insights of his old counselor and knew he could not risk such a catastrophe from coming to pass. And so, the Great Wolf called in his banners, withdrawing all warriors and material he could spare from active war zones to his flagship, the battle barge Allfather's Honor. He set course for the Armageddon system. The Space Wolves reached Armageddon to find its defences made amid heretic uprisings and civil strife. The Voxmaster of the Allfather's Honor received prioritised requests for aid from Hive Governors, Astra Militarum officers and scattered Space Marine strike forces. Unable to respond to every such cry for help, Grimnar identified the weakest point in the Imperial defences and dispatched his warrior packs. The bulk of his forces landed on Armageddon Prime. Thunderhawk gunships departed their hangar bays, accompanied by armour-laden landers and streams of drop pods. The Space Wolves had come to Armageddon. And moving over to the Black Templars, this is their second Armageddon crusade, and it states, "Logan Grimnar was not alone in acting upon a vision. However, that which was implied High Marshal Helbrecht experienced firsthand in a blaze of golden glory. When it came, he had been crusading against orcs and tyranids of the Ectaria sector. As he knelt at his devotions, a towering figure, his features obscured by a halo of radiance, manifested before him. The figure placed a burning hand upon his shoulder. At the visitor's touch, images of profane desecration flashed through his mind. He saw gore-slick pyramids rising over ashen wastes. He saw cities crumble and burn. He saw brothers die in their droves and blood rain from the heavens. As horrors unfolded before him, he realized that he knew the setting of this nightmare scene: Armageddon. The vision faded. Helbrecht took a deep breath, gasping breath, and opened his eyes. The figure had gone, leaving nothing more than the warmth of its touch upon his pauldron of armor. Indomitable though his faith was, the High Marshal knew well enough not to trust such a vision blindly, and so, aboard his flagship, the Gloriana-class battleship Eternal Crusader, he convened a gathering of his most trusted sword brothers. The debate lasted for many hours, some of Helbrecht's brethren claiming the apparition to be the message from the God Emperor, the others counting caution and summarizing Chaos Taint Witchery may be responsible. In the end, the High Marshal resolved to trust his faith. He had felt no deception or sense that reviled stench of witchcraft. If the vision had been the Emperor sent, ignoring such a call would be nothing short of heresy. At his command, the Eternal Crusader's engines flared to life once more, and his complement of warriors girthed themselves for a new crusade. Emerging in the war-scarred Armageddon system, the battleship was greeted by a blistering barrage of Vox transmissions and Auspex readings. Communications with other Imperial forces soon revealed that the Black Templars were not alone in reinforcing the embattled world. A sizable force from the Space Wolves was also present. Their battle barge, All-Father's Honor, hung in orbit over Armageddon Prime. The contrails and engine flares of Space Wolves dropships were visible as they headed towards the surface. Appraising the situation, Helbrecht set his sights upon the belated hives of Armageddon Secundus. He could coordinate with the Space Wolves and other local Imperial defenders later. Now was time for action. So the next bit is called the Conquest of Armageddon, and this is basically a timeline of events that leads up to the invasion of the World Eaters. Some of this stuff that you'll know, some of this stuff is new lore. So look in the background right now as we go through all of it. Ghazskull's invasions. The Orc warlord Ghazskull Fracker undertakes consecutive invasions of Armageddon. The first sees the planet brought to the brink of ruin, mainly due to the heretical incompetence of its planetary governor, Overlord Hermann von Strab. It is only thanks to the efforts of the insubordinate Commissar Yarrick and the intervention of the Adeptus Astartes that disaster is averted. Armageddon has scarcely had time to recover before Ghazskull strikes again, at the head of an even larger invasion force. Hades' hive is obliterated during the fighting, and many of the planet's hives suffer severe damage. The success conflict results in billions of deaths, and while Ghazskull eventually abandons the war, the Orc presence is never eliminated from Armageddon's surface. Pursuing Ghazskull. Whilst fighting continues in Armageddon, Ghazskull's absence allows the Imperial military to restore a measure of control. Overrun hives are liberated, and most of the Orcs are driven back to the Equorial jungle or to Hive Tempestus, the only hive remaining in Orc control. With the situation under relative control, Commissar Yarrick leaves the planet, taking a portion of its military strength with him, and joins High Marshal Helbrecht's Black Templars in their pursuit of the Orc warlord. The Noctis Eternia. The opening of the Great Rift spells disaster for the worlds beyond count, and Armageddon is not spared. Warp storms ravage the system, engulfing its worlds in mutating energies and spilling tides of demons onto the surface of Armageddon. The warp storms leave their most lasting mark in the Fire Wastes, the northernmost continent of Armageddon. The southern influx of warp energy that swamps Armageddon ignites lingering traces of empiric corruption buried in the planet's crust. In the heart of the Fire Wastes, a fault line cracks open, spilling forth corrupting energies that mutate the surrounding environs and permanently weaken the veil between reality and the warp. In its location, this slowly expanding anomaly will later become known as the Red Angel's Gate. The Blood Crusades. The coming of the Great Rift is a gift to the followers of the Blood God, as Abaddon Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade cuts through the Imperium. The World Eaters, Cornite demons, and masses of cultists pour out of the warp. The Khornite hordes spill from the Cicatrix Maledictum in 8 directions, riding the raging warp storms, catching many systems off guard. These blood crusades inflict widespread carnage. One blood crusade carves a path towards Armageddon, only to break apart as it crashes into an orc-held territories of Golgoth. Though the Blood Crusade momentum is broken, its remnants continue to pose a threat across the Armageddon sector. The fall of Hive Thoradis. The influx of demons and warp energies sees new conflicts emerge across Armageddon. Battles erupt across the planet, the majority occurring around the Firewaste ore mines and prison complexes. In the eastern reaches of Armageddon Secundus, Hive Thoradis is assaulted by combined forces of heretics, Chaos Space Marines, demons, and traitor titans. The defenders of Hive Thoradis hold the line with great bravery, but are eventually driven back into the bowels of the belated Hive. Colonel Burkamp of the 473rd Armageddon Steel Legion eventually takes measures of sabotaging Thoradis' power cores. The result is a catastrophic explosion, bringing the superstructure down upon the invaders and denying survivors their prize. A beacon for butchery. The death and destruction caused during the siege of Thoradis feeds the Red Angel's Gate, causing it to swell. The expanding warp scar acts as an empiric beacon, a pulsating sort of hatred and fury whose throbbing sends waves of corrupting forces rippling through the warp. Light years distant from Armageddon, Angron's former flagship, the Conqueror, heeds the call. Its engines abruptly flare to life and the vessel plunges into the warp without warning. Khornite demons and the ships of World Eaters warbands and other renegades are dragged along in its wake. Titan's Foresight. The threat of the Great Rift stretches the resources of the demon-hunting Grey Knights to breaking point. Entire brotherhoods are decimated or cut off from each other by warp storms, and those that remain cannot hope to counter every demonic threat arrayed against the Imperium. Within the chapter's Fortress Monastery on Titan, the prognosticators, diviners, sift through the warp, their psychic senses searching for telltale disturbances in the fabric of reality that herald demonic manifestation. The empiric tremors radiating from Armageddon draw their attention. Yet, this is not all they see. Something is tearing through the Sea of Souls, leaving a rippling wake like an aquatic super predator. They recognize the fell spore of the entity at once. Angron comes for Armageddon. The Ensanguined. Within the hives of Armageddon, a new wave of cult activity rises. Many of the lowest and most desperate inhabitants dedicate themselves to Khorne, engaging in a wanton slaughter. Loyalist citizens are purged as zealous agents of the Adeptus Ministorum seek to root out the rebels. Their efforts do little to stop the spreading violence. As the hives struggle to contain their tides of heresy, corruption spreads south from the Red Angel's Gate, lapping at the northern reaches of Armageddon Secundus. Near the ruins of Hive Thoradis, no fewer than 4 regiments of the Armageddon Steel Legion turn their weapons upon their erstwhile allies. Cultist mobs emerge from the depths of the shattered hives to join the assault. Within days, the traitors occupy the Hive ruins. The few heretics captured for interrogation speak of a prophet of blood and God, a leader who calls herself Askara, the Ensanguined. Convergence. Logan Grimnar's Space Wolves and High Marshal Helbrecht's Black Templars arrive at Armageddon to find the planet riven by war. Grimnar's warriors land in the vicinity of High Volcanus in Armageddon Prime. They engage teeming masses of mutant abominations from the Hive lower levels. Wolf Scout kill teams venture into the depths of targeting cult leaders and destroying weapon caches. Though the fighting continues, the intervention of Grimnar's forces buys time for Volcanus officials to restore order amongst its defense regiments. With Grimnar's Space Wolves already deployed to Armageddon Prime, Helbrecht dispatches his battle brothers to Armageddon Secundus. Helbrecht joins the Imperial forces near the Infernus and makes a concerted effort to push back heretic beseeching the Hive. His ultimate objective is to recapture the ruins of Hades and Foradris and purge them of their rebel occupiers. With the aid of the Krieg 74th Line Corps, advances are made and new trench lines and fortifications are dug. The 5th Brotherhood. Grandmaster Morven's 5th Brotherhood arrives in orbit of Armageddon and appraises the grim situation. He and his battle brothers swiftly identify loci of warp energies scattered across the fireways and dispatch intercessor squads to investigate with impunity. The rest of the Preserver's strength is held in reserve as Morvine considers his next move. The Eater of Worlds. The unexpected arrival in orbit of the Conqueror and its attendant fleet produces ripples that reach Armageddon's surface. While the combined might of the Eternal Crusader and Allfather's Honor and the remaining Navis Imperialis squadrons ensure Imperial naval superiority, the World Eaters and their allies show little interest in engaging the protracted void combat. Instead, the Chaos Fleet surges into low orbit, expendable Khornite warships are hurled towards the Imperial fleet, serving as a screening force with sheer aggression tying up the Imperial fleet just long enough for combat drops to be achieved. Now the next bit of this video is the Defenders and the Invaders of Armageddon. These are the lists of the forces that are currently taking part. Now there is a note on this list saying that everything cannot be confirmed. There's more Space Marine chapters there, for example. There's more Guard regiments there. We just haven't identified everyone, but this is basically the main list to go off for now. So let's jump in again and let's look at it in the background. So as you can see, this is the Defenders of Armageddon. Let's start with the Space Wolves. So with the Space Wolves, you have the Champions of Fenris, which is Chapter Master Logan Grimnar, High Rune Priest Nijal Stormcaller, hopefully I haven't butchered that, Battle Leader Stryborn Flint Eye, 21 Battle Brothers of Logan Grimnar's Wolfguard, 83 Battle Brothers, 14 supported armored vehicles. You got Blackmane there, Battle Leader Sigvi Breheart, or should I say Bearheart, I just completely butchered that again. 4 battle companies of Ragnar Blackmane, Wolfguard, 15 Battle Brothers, 2 supporting armor vehicles. The Death Wolves are there, 3 battle. So let's start with the Defenders of Armageddon, and you can see all the list of the Space Wolves. You've got the Champions of Fenris, Blackmane, Death Wolves, the fleet assets. You can see all the troops that are part of it. You've got Logan Grimnar, you've got the High Rune Priest, Nijal Stormcaller, Battle Leader Stryborn Flint Eye, 21 Battle Brothers of Logan Grimnar's Wolfguard, 83 Battle Brothers, 14 supporting armored vehicles. Sigvi Bearheart is there. He's got all his forces with him, same with the Death Wolves. The fleet assets for the Space Wolves, Allfather's Honor Battle Barge, 3 Gladius class frigates, 2 Nova class frigates, and 4 Hunter class destroyers. The Black Templars, Helbrecht's Crusade. You've got High Marshal Helbrecht, Castellan Holzer, Chaplain Prost, Chaplain Gorin. There is a note here anyway. Well, I'm going to say this. It's not mentioned here, but we also have Grimaldus on Armageddon. It's not mentioned anywhere in the Defenders of Armageddon, but it is mentioned in the story that Grimaldus is indeed back on Armageddon. Apothecary Muller, 56 Sword Brethren, 123 Battle Brothers, 84 Neophyte Squires, 53 supporting armed vehicles, and fleet assets, the Eternal Crusader Gloriana class battleship, 7 Gladius class frigates, and 15 class destroyers. Grey Knights is all redacted because, you know, Grey Knights being Grey Knights, they're all secrets and stuff. Now, if we push forward to the additional Astartes forces, this is what it says, what I said before about there's more chapters there. They just haven't been identified. Now, the ones that have been identified, you got Strike Force Garon, so the Raptors are there. Combat Unit Kemenor, the Sons of the Phoenix, so a lot of Sons of Dawn here. Strike Force Decker, which is Hammers of Dawn, which again are more Sons of Rogel Dawn. You got Strike Force Vangello, which is the Mortifactors, they're also there. Strike Force Volkal, the Salamanders represented, of course. You can't be Armageddon without the Salamanders, right? And Strike Force Domino, which is the Silver Skull. So those are just some of the chapters that are also present in this war on Armageddon. If we move to the Astra Militarum regiments, you can see Krieger there, Armageddon Steel Legion, Vostrian Firstborn, the Ignis Lancers, the Usari Void Sharks, Talon Desert Raiders, Katakan Jungle Fighters, Armageddon Orc Hunters, and the Mayasaman Red Cows. I've just absolutely butchered that, but hey, it's me. Auxiliary units, Hive Militants and Penal Legions, Infernus Defense Units, Tatanine Scorpions, Volcanus Defense Militar, Phoenician Penal Legion, the Jopal Indentured, the Acheron Armored Corps, the Golgoth Artillery, and Hadean Exiles are also being represented here. Adeptus Mechanicus, these are basically the Titans and stuff. You got Princeps, Matthias Column, Iron Therium, Warlord Battle Titan, well, a couple of Warlord Battle Titans, actually they're all Warlord Battle Titans, Warbringer Battle Titans there as well, and a Warhound Battle Titan. So yes, we've got some Legio representing on the battlefield. Martian cohorts, you can see all the AdMech stuff that is also brought here. So the AdMech, of course, assisting and helping. Void ships and naval assets, because the Imperium does have control of the Void warfare, as it states in the little lore that we just went through. You can see like all the battleships, carrier classes, 8 cruisers, frigates, and that's all, of course, adding with all the Space Marine ships in orbit as well. And the additional elements, Rogue Trader, Kreitman Telenocera, am I saying that right? And 3 companies of Voidsmen at Arms, Kin Mercenary Bands. That is a yeah, that's a bit of a spicy one. So the Votan are here: Adeptus Arbites, Extraction Squads, Hadean Tartan, and Archean Precepts. Freighter Militara is there as well. Again, that is just the tip of the crown of the forces that have been identified fighting on Armageddon. And if we flip that coin over, you can get to see Angron's host here, the World Eaters, all the ships that they have here, the Conqueror, 12 capital vessels, 12 escorts, picket ships and stuff. Angron is mentioned here. It says, presence rumoured, eyewitnesses contained for purification. So that means if you've seen Angron and you reported Angron, you're probably already dead by the Inquisition. Bloodstalkers, the Farnsworth, Brazen Butchers, Crimson Desecrators. These are just also different war bands. Iron Spine, Sons of Carnage. You know, they're all turning up. It's literally Angron, the beacon, the blood, the warfare. It's getting everyone here. You've got all the Renegade Astartes that are popping up here. Blood Blessed, Murder Hounds, Children of the Crimson Lord, the Cult Masses, the Jackals, the Mutants, the Spawn Packs, the Corrupted Servitors. Everything's slung on here. High Fortress has all the hits stuff on there, mechanical assets, because again, they do have Traitor Titans on here. 4-6 Titans, class unknown. 1 bulk lander is there as well. Hive Hades also has all the stuff there, like artillery pieces, tanks, cults, everyone there. And it's got redacted at the bottom. Now, I don't know what is redacted there for some reason, because they already mentioned Angron. So what is more redacted than Angron? Can anyone help me out with this? What is more redacted than Angron, the Demon Primarch of the World Eaters? Please help me out in the comment section of the video. And for now, I'm going to call the video there. And my next video, because this is part 1, part 2 is going to cover the entire story. I'm going to be looking at like certain events that happen there, basically just covering the main event in it, and of course the ending of this epic battle, this epic invasion by the World Eaters, and what is left at the end of it, because it is absolutely insane. The information that I'm receiving at the moment is blowing me away. I cannot wait to go out and buy this book. Pick this book up. I recommend everyone, if you're liking what you hear so far, go out and get this book. It is looking absolutely incredible. And this is just the lore aspect of it. Of course, the Crusade rules and all the battles you can do, and, you know, play scenarios out and stuff like that, that is also included in this. So yes, massive 2 thumbs up from me. 10 out of 10 from what I'm seeing so far. If anyone's got any questions, any thoughts, any feedback, anything like that, post it down below and we can have a nice little chinwag down there, as we always do. See you now, and I'll see you in the next part this week.